For this part of the project, I'm going to be speaking about basically the mind versus brain argument, consciousness, and what controls our behavior. Basically, in psychology, there's this argument between the mind versus brain, where the mind is something, well, it's considered something that you can't really measure, you can't really study it. I mean, you can't see it. There's no way to look on an fMRI scan and be able to pinpoint the mind, which is why today many psychologists, experimental psychologists, even any other types of psychologists, they tend to push the whole idea of the mind away, saying that it's the brain that controls basically everything. The brain is the end-all be-all because it is something that you can study, it's something that you can see, it's something that you can measure. You can measure the activity in the brain. I mean, if you were to look on a function, an fMRI scan, you'd be able to, pinpoint, where neurotransmitters are and what behavior that has elicited. And so they go usually with the whole idea of the brain. The whole department of psychology, or the whole branch of psychology, they're trying to come across as more scientific, which is why they push the mind to the side, because, I mean, something, if you can't study it, if you can't experiment with it, then it's considered not to be scientific. And many psychologists want to be taken seriously by, scientists and the hard sciences like physics, chemistry, and biology. However, I don't entirely agree with that. I mean, I definitely think there is an aspect to the brain as well, and I think that somewhere a mind does exist, whatever that may be. Some people may define it as a soul. I don't know. I don't really have a specific definition for that. I just know that there are some things you can't study. I mean, if you take a look at an image, well, an fMRI image of a psychopath's brain, yeah, okay, they have decreased levels of dopamine, but that doesn't explain everything. I mean, they have no structural differences in their brain, right? I mean, obviously there might be some nurture involved in, the formation of a psychopath. I don't know. I don't even think they know. Most scientists don't even know. But maybe that's where a mind comes into play. To me, not everything needs to be studied scientifically. There are certain things, maybe one day we will be able to figure out or study what this mind is, or maybe not. Maybe it's just one of those things that'll never be explained, and that's fine. I mean, with me, I don't really care. Yeah. But I do think that behavior comes from a compilation of both the mind and the brain, right? I guess this can't really be explained without explaining consciousness first. Basically, I don't really know what consciousness is. I don't have a clear definition of it. I mean, maybe it's something, that's universal in a sense where, it's shared by, like, some people believe that there's, like, a universal consciousness. For me, maybe I think it's maybe a mix. Like, you have your own single consciousness, your own single kind of mind, as well as a universal one. Like, it's kind of attached there. To me, maybe there are many different layers of consciousness. Some that are part of this, collective consciousness in the universe, and some that are just unique to you. I mean, because, if you have a brain, basically you look at everyone's brain, it's more or less the same. I mean, there are some variations with disorders and whatnot. But, everyone's personalities and characteristics, the way, people think or act. It's hard to predict, and it makes everyone kind of individual. I mean, yes, people can share similar characteristics, personality traits, of course, but usually people are just, there are certain things that are just unique to an individual, and the brain can't really explain that, right? So I think that's where, an individual consciousness would be, right? I mean, you experience the world, and the world that we see, smell, touch, hear, taste, this is all being interpreted by our sensory neurons, our neurons, and signals are being sent to the brain, they're being sent back, and the brain is basically, you're experiencing the world physically, but you're also interpreting it in a different way. Like, your brain makes sense of it the way it can, but also your mind, your consciousness, you're experiencing things a little differently. You can have two people experiencing the same event, but they will have experienced it differently, and I don't think the brain can attribute to that. I think it's more, well, unless there's an impairment. Obviously that would make it differ. I think that, the mind also plays a role in that too. I guess I'm kind of rambling. I did make up some questions. It's just kind of shows you where I'm at. Basically, when it came to consciousness, I said, I started with, thinking, does it have a memory? Because I was trying to think of structures in the brain. Like, for example, memory, is in the brain. There's the hippocampus that deals with memory, and some other structures in the frontal lobe. And I was thinking, okay, well, when you're a small baby, these memory centers in the brain haven't been fully formed, which is why we don't remember what happened to us when we were 6 months old, or usually even 2 years old or 3, until it's become more developed. Even childhood memories are patchy. And it made me wonder, okay, well, if consciousness, let's say consciousness existed and as soon as a fetus was created, or, something like that, whatever.